All right, this set of notes is going to cover the Mughal Empire. So I know it looks like Mughal or Mughal, but it's actually Mughal. And the Mughals are going to control India for several centuries until they come in and invade and take over from the native empire in India. And they're going to control the entire subcontinent for several hundred years until the English overthrow them. So the Mughals were actually descendants of the Mongols. So the Mongols are a nomadic tribal style culture that dominated Asia for several centuries in what we call the Middle Ages, and the Mughals are going to develop from them as they travel south and expand south. They come in through a pass here in northern India, through here, through the Himalaya mountains that are up here. This is the Himalayas all through here, and establish an empire in the northern section of India. You can see from this map that they don't actually ever take the entire subcontinent because this southern section stays independent. But they're going to control for several hundred years all of the trade that's happening in the Indian subcontinent. So, like we said, we already talked about how they are in northern India. The confusing thing about the Mughals is that we know that they're in India, right? And we know that the vast majority of people who live in India are Hindu. But the Mughals, as they traveled and as their culture developed, they actually bring Islam. So they come through the Middle East and they adopt the religion of Islam. And then as they spread into India, they spread Islam into India. So this is going to play a fairly significant role in the 18 and 1900s in Indian history, which we'll get to when we get to World War II. But the Mughals are responsible for spreading Islam, and one of the big major accomplishments that they are known for as conquerors is the architecture that develops. And in particular, this is the Taj Mahal. So the Taj Mahal is a beautiful marble building. It's massive, and it's located here in Agra, in northern India, right? Which would make sense because that's where the Mughals live. But the Taj Mahal is a mausoleum, so it's a tomb to the wife of a Mughal ruler named Shah Jahan. But now it is one of the World Heritage Sites for India, and it's one of the most famous places that people go to see when they travel to India. The Indians or the Mughals rather, are going to be controlling a lot of trade. This is sort of a theme in this particular unit, is the trade that develops in Asia. But in particular, they're going to be situated, if I make this map a little bit bigger for you guys, they're going to be situated sort of in the centerpiece between connecting Africa and the Middle East to China. We talk about the Ottomans connecting Asia, Africa, and Europe, but the Indian subcontinent is going to connect the Middle East and Africa to Asia. And so you can imagine that as you're traveling by sea from China across, that you would need to stop in India to resupply. But also, you have to take into account the monsoon seasons. So monsoons are seasonal winds. They blow in a northeasterly direction for several months, and then they switch and they blow in the southwesterly direction. And that allowed for seasonal trade between Africa and Asia. So the other thing is that India gets into connection with the Europeans. So the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the British are going to establish port cities. You can see from this map, there are all these cities, 1500s, 1600s, and 1700s, that are developed by the Dutch, the French, the English, the Danes, right, from Denmark. But all of these cities ultimately become ports for the English to get a foothold into India, and that's ultimately how they conquer the Mughals. But they're largely trading textiles, so lots of fabrics, silks, sails, rugs, lots of things that are made by hand. They also had a really unique dyeing process. So a lot of the Europeans were bringing back these cloth tapestries and things that were dyed by the beautiful, rich colors that the plant life in India made available. So they're also going to have a lot of spices. If you've ever eaten Indian food, you know that it's very flavorful and it's very filled with lots of different spices. And also gems. There are some really unique natural gemstones and things that you can find in India that are taken back and sold, or also taken back into control by the royal families of England. They actually refer to India as the crown jewel, ultimately, of the British Empire, because of its point after the Mughals are taken over, based on how much money comes out of India, but also because literally the jewels that are put into one of the crowns for the ruling family of England was taken, probably stolen, from the Mughal Empire. All right, so politically, just like the Ottoman Empire, the Mughals have a bureaucracy ruled by an emperor. In the Ottoman Empire, we called them a sultan. In Russia, we would call them a czar. In England, we would call them a king. In this particular situation, in the Mughals, they are emperors. But it's the same system because no one can rule anything by themselves. There's a system in place of different people in charge of different orchestrated parts of the government. They're also very dependent on trade from largely Europe, trading all kinds of various products, including rice, including spices that we've already been through, and all those things that we mentioned on the last slide. So that's the Mughals. And if you have any questions, let me know.